It's all oneness. You
Um,
know,
b- Booming, we're live. Well, we were just speaking before we went live, man. Overall, my brother, how's things anyway?
everything is everything. It's just it's all one. It's all in dimensional shifts, and it's all like a divine blessing of complete, unlimited knowledge of self. And it's like everything that's happening now is something that's happened all time and space at other times, and we're just here again in the cycle. You know, the energy of the loop and how it works, and what our dimensional connection was to the loop.
Well, I think that's a really good place to start, man, because obviously since the last time we spoke in public, there's been a lot of changes in your side of the world, just in our, like you said, in our current dimension, paradigm, whatever you want to call it. So, I mean,
Yeah,
just give me a reflection. Like, I mean, here we are at the end of 2016. I mean, you're over there. You're right, in the, for want of a better
well, I
words.
got a new. My new hookup is now I've got this new, like super learning hacker life code institute that I'm developing. That it's like just about to open in another month or so. We're going to do a talk about that again, and it's just about life code energy, universal chi hacking. That's really what it is. It's universal chi core energy hacking, and being able to take the core energy of the universe as you process it with one of my superconductor uh, meteorite magnet particle colliders that I'm wearing around my neck. We're using these meteorites and these magnets with copper at a high frequency. And when you're moving them at a high frequency, the energy starts to like link itself in. And as it links itself back into its core being, uh, I had been studying these meteorites for about 10 years. And then something told me to activate them with magnets in copper. And I think it was the first UFO experience I had in Chicago. And they kind of did like this data embed thing on me, where the data was there already from the movements I was making when I saw them, which were movements similar to this. It's kind of like a Qigong Reiki hookup connection that I had just discovered, like momentarily before they came up. The next thing I know, after I had completed these movements, the aliens were behind me at about 3 to 4 thousand feet up. They were behind me in a like a great white, completely circular spaceship, like a big ball that, and they shot off at top speed because my first reaction was the Shanzong acupuncture point, and it was like, sea of chi, and my chi was disrupted. But then they immediately took off and came back on my command because I was like, hey, we're using universal telepathic language. If you're aliens or if you're brothers and sisters from the next level, you got to know the universal telepathic language. So I use the universal telepathic language. They acknowledged me and immediately came back. Their ship came back into my vicinity, and we spent like hours, kind of like in a mind meld. I was asking them a lot of questions because at that point I assumed they could hear and understand anything I said telepathically, and they answered me. And one of the main things was, when you're ready, the mothership can come. That was basically the real lesson I learned from them, is that when you're ready, the mothership will appear. And as it did in Maui, Hawaii, when I met them again, a different group, but they came up 10,000 feet to Mahalakala and gave their respect. We were doing drumming. So yes, it's time again to be super immortal avatarian tribe, and we just have to now activate. With Trump is there, all these people. It doesn't really matter who's in there though, because ultimately, if you go 72 trillion light years away or somewhere close to that, where they had this alien species that were able to manipulate their sun, the one they saw recently. I don't know if you heard about that, but
Hmm.
they basically found those people and it was like, okay, they're aliens. That's the only definition. They understand technology. They're avatars, like level one avatar civilization, and they have it all, and they're way over there, and there's nothing we can do about it, right? They're way over there, and they're demonstrating to us that they're here too. You see, they don't have to get up on stage and show everybody. Think about it. If they can do all that, they can surely come here.
Hmm.
If they can manipulate their sun, and they can make their sun active to their own hand, and function abnormal frequencies, which is what they found, then they're already here. They're here. They come here as a tourism. This is like a tourist trap, Earth. They get to see what we're doing because they've conquered. Think about it. They've conquered. It's just like when I met the Prism Collective and the Prism Federation, 72 trillion light years away in remote sensing training. And I went there and just hooked up with the homies and just they were like all amazed that I could be in their frequency. But the reality is that's what's up. They can come here anytime, and they do because they're bored. They can do everything. They're transhuman. Their bodies can do anything, and they have fun with changing. And the only real fun that they really have is time travel and space travel. So coming to our realm for super advanced civilizations is like us going to Disneyland. It's like the chic, cool gangster thing for them. They can come amongst us and think how interesting that is. You come to Earth and just hang out and kick it with the Earthlings and just experience all that stuff, all the hate, the hatred, the passion, all these emotions that they don't have in their races because they've been genetically engineered out. Everybody's moving it the same way. So while they have these advanced civilizations, they need Earthlings to toy with and to have something to like somebody who can struggle. See, we still know how to struggle. We have to struggle, even though we don't even know. We're just like that movie Westworld. It's kind of that's how we are to aliens. We're just some people that they come amongst us. They do what they want to do, and they have certain relationships, obviously, with the elites, but they have relationships with shamans too. So they're here, and they're witnessing in some ways protecting us, some ways letting us learn from ourselves, and some ways they're just watching the miniseries. That's what we are to them in another way. We're like the miniseries because they're learning a lot about survival from us. This is like growing up on the south side of Chicago. You learn about survival or you don't live, on some level. And then seeing aliens there, it's like, my point is, at this point, it's all about time travel. It really is. You got to go into the realms that you want to have be real and that are already there and have reality and bring those realities back to this plane to teach and learn. Because that's why the extraterrestrials are really here at this point. It's a learning, teaching, and remembering. Everybody is involved in it. The extraterrestrials are involved in it. We're involved in it. And we all have to make a shift to find out our power in our core, in universal power core, just to be able to tap into it now. The oracle of the internal supercomputer is there, and you just have to tap into that. And then it just becomes very clear.
Okay, well, can I, maybe an insight that I would, a question I'd like to throw to you, brother, is: do you think, from your experiences or from your knowledge or however you want to, come across on this,
Yeah, because I don't know anything.
do
That's
you
the key thing I want to
my question is: do you think that it's just us alone, humans on this rock, that have that insight and that enlightenment, or do we, or how far up and down the animal chain do we go? I mean, do we go as far as an ant, and or do we stop at dolphins? I mean, where does the level of enlightenment sort of stop?
It's a universal cycle. So every entity can tap into the frequency on some level of the database. Every being, like they've proven that microscopic cells know how to go towards oxygen, right?
Mhm.
And they know how and understand oxygen patterns when they need to get oxygen, so they know where to go and how to shift to get that oxygen. So all the aerodynamics and all the supercomputer models that are needed for them to do that, and the nanotechnology that's involved in their cells has its own AI. So everything in the universe has its own AI. That's my meditation that I'm working with. You know, uh, everything in the universe has its own AI, and what I'm involved using my media crystal supercomputer particle colliders, I meditate on resonating with that AI, and I've had some good success because the electricity that's starting to link with the stones is really giving me I'm starting to feel accelerate, like I'm accelerating in terms of where I need to go with my supercomputer, my quantum super understanding for this age and what I really need. And it comes down for me, it's just a lot of breatharian type consciousness. That's where I'm at. It's like being empty, living on little or nothing, and just living on the breatharian technology. You know, just being like uh, empty. And what I'm finding is my cells are reacting way differently. Like instead of like lusting for food, if I can just lust for oxygen and work with that perspective, I'm finding that I'm returning to the avatarian consciousness, and that's what my whole science, what my whole being is about at this point, is to lead my sons into the avatarian consciousness, so that they will be at avatars above the confusion that people will either have to endure or rise above, in a time to come. So that's what's up. Living on water and just a little bit of oxygen and maybe some live juice, or, you know what I'm saying? Something light, energy. My whole thing right now is ultra energy lightness and making myself one with my avatarian reality. One meal a week is normal and natural. One meal a week, and my third eye resonates all the energy that it needs to be able to activate the quantum inner supercomputer that is Osir or Osiris. Osiris consciousness. And that's what I'm working on right now, is resonating the Osirian consciousness, kind of joining that with neuro-linguistic programming and linking my God person to the quantum computer. And that's what I feel. That's what I'm into. It's like, and it's so real for me right now, that what I need to go into this next 2,000 years, I'm feeling my transhumanist consciousness merging with my cosmic consciousness. So I feel 2,000 years in one body is not going to be a big deal soon. You understand?
Hmm.
Because if look at it like this, my last born son, he went 12 months on basically liquids, and that's what made him who he is now. You understand? He had that month of liquiditarian life, and so now he's ready for, he started computer programming at 4.5, qigong at 2, Charlie foot kung fu at 2, 3.5. But the point is, all these modalities, everybody, we have to all start to embrace the universal qigong, and that is the quantum supercomputer that they're talking about, and the transhumanist movement. And the beauty of that is, you don't need machines for any of that. That's what my message is. It's okay, you're in the machines, great, but you don't really need machines for any of this. You have the supercomputer. You're walking the quantum supercomputer. You see? So the aliens that have come to me have basically given me respect and they revealed themselves to me in a very awkward moment for myself, because I was doing my Kemetic Maku Reiki. My Reiki situation was, and they were acknowledging to me that my Maku Reiki training, that's why I call it alien Reiki, because it was definitely developed with the aliens. They came and acknowledged it. And that's what's up with every human being in a human earthling. We have thousands, we have trillions and trillions of families of technologies out there that with telepathic remote visioning, my technology, that's the latest thing I'm into is remote visioning and really getting myself aligned with the internal and the cosmic quantum supercomputer that I can access, that anyone can access and gain their birthright. You understand? Gain their birthright with the quantum telepathic supercomputer that the universe is. You see? So
Mhm.
it's yin and yang, Ra and Nu, fire and water. You got those two poles, and take those two poles and take them out there. That's where we're at now. I wanted to show people, and my program, we're about activating the inner supercomputer 8 hours a day. How about that? 10 hours a day. What if you could work on your superconscious intelligence 12 hours a day or even 24 hours a day? So we do that. We reprogram our superconscious mind. You understand? That's what's up. You have to become a new being
Mhm.
to go into the next age. You have to be a new being. You know, 200 years, 300 years is not going to be a big deal. Because what's killing you is your diet and your eating, your earthiness. If you became an Osiris, if you stop eating, if most people stop eating like 50% of what they're doing now with their stomach. The stomach is the abdominal brain. You
Mhm.
understand? The stomach is the abdominal brain. So you kill that man in there, that woman in there, that has all this knowledge and intelligence. Whenever I have any problems, it's all about fasting, and it's not even fasting anymore for me. It's regeneration diet. You know, you want to have that, and you want to go into a place where you are divine. Think about that. If you go to a place where you are divine, like just like in a snap of a finger, right? That, and you go to that place, and you stay there, and you start to grow there, and you do that once every day. What will happen is you become that person, which is what you're doing anyway. Think about that. The person you're becoming every day in a programmed society and what it says to you. It's an illusion. So the
Mhm.
illusion that you link, one thing you have that you can work with that I survived the South Side of Chicago, the killing fields and everything, and it was as horrible as it looks. But there were some good things about it. But the one thing that I always had that helped me to survive all of that was I realized that my subconscious mind could get me anything I needed, that I would become what I believed. So I chose to believe that I was an avatar and that I had been linked with my Lord and Savior Imhotep the First. So I was able to do some time travel on different fasts and detoxify my body. I was able to go back into the Great Pyramids and reconnect with all of those places that see the one thing that they trick people about Mars and the pyramids in Egypt that you can only get if you like watch Stargate, and that is all those places are still there. And once there's this one voodoo priest in Africa, and they call him Bishop OOO. And what makes him unique from all the voodoo priests and shamans and healers is that he's an interdimensional shaman. In other words, he knows so much about interdimensional travel that he has a church on the dimension in these different dimensional places that only you can go if you're like the Pope or somebody or some high initiate. So they understand frequency. And that's what the age we're going into now. Is that what I teach my students and what I want them to understand is what saved me in the killing fields is everything is frequency. Even if someone is around you and they're really bad trip and violent, but you can walk right past them and they won't be able to bother you because your
Mhm.
frequency is such that and that's what I used to always do before I left my house is that I would change my frequency in some way very radically so that when I left outside, they would see this ocean of prana around me, and they wouldn't know who I was and what I was. And so I started to expand that. And that was something that came from my own Shepsunatari, or divine ancestor, because I didn't have any money for these martial arts trainings that or Tai Chi. I knew them and I knew where they were, but I didn't have the $10,000 they wanted. So I had to go right to the universal place. You understand? And the universal place had everything that I needed to get to, you know. And that's what happened, is that you don't need money, but what you need is the force that creates money. That's what I'm finding out more and more, especially with the dollar and all this stuff, with all the collapse. What you really need is spiritual power, and like becoming an avatar, kind of a thing like that, is where you learn how to tap into your electricity. You know, your own personal electricity is what's going to save you. You know, and that's what's going to get you through. It's just like once when I was in a car accident with a reggae band I was in, and the car started swerving and crashing. And then at some point, I heard a spirit, and it said, just breathe, and started laughing at me. Just breathe. And so I felt the spinning. The next thing you know, it was like, I was like in this very deep place. And the place told me, hey, I was floating in air, and I was floating, and my car was crashing. The car was crashing, but I was floating. You know, I was floating, and within 1 second became a week. It was like a nanosecond, but it was like I was underwater, and I was moving, and I was floating through space, and everything became the universe, and the universe became a moment in my consciousness. And as this thing flew and floated through time, I felt myself become one with another dimension. And this guy was a master in another dimension, and he managed to come through time, because I was in the back of the van after rapping for hours in trance. I was fried. So through time and space, we have to become what we are. And what we are is what we have manifest. And even so now, because Trump he's made himself into a billionaire through his mind. We can also be billionaire avatars. We don't need the money. It's not going to even be, you know, currencies are going to go dematerialized. That's all the signs are pointing to that. Like what Daniel's doing with SafeX and this whole movement. I still got my SafeX coins. That's going to be the new money, and gold. But gold is going to be kind of impractical to carry around. So SafeX is going to be our new gold. We've got to get our minds ready to become Christ-like. So food is our enemy, really. And that's a lesson I've learned. The one lesson I've learned, I think, more than any other, is that I don't do enough breatharian, liquidarian, juicitarian. That's what you want. You want to get your vibration level up high, your frequency high, and your energy, your third eye open, like in the bird of life flying out. You understand? And then you'll be able to see what moves you have to make. Maybe you have to go back to Venezuela. You understand? Or wherever it is you got people go. You know, but those things are possible. You know, you want to go to the tropics, you want to go away from you at least in your own being, even if you can't get to the tropics. We just have to activate. All my time has been going into activating my quantum super inner computer and being conscious of my movements and my vibration, my frequency. That's where I'm at right now.
Okay.
8 hours a day, moving energy.
But it's fascinating you mention the tropics, because one of the things that I've been contemplating for many years, and I've really sort of spent a lot of this year contemplating it, is that isn't one of the greatest allies to us on this planet as Earthlings is the cold weather. And I'm contemplating on places like the tundra and the Arctic and stuff like this. These are the weather itself is a good test. I love living right now in cold. I go out every day and I go out and
In
I
Russia, they're
face.
giving away land. Did you hear about that? Russia, you can get
Hmm?
out on land you want. In the Russian tundra, they're giving away land right now. We can get like some land if we want.
The reason I mention this
$1,500.
is the reason I mention it, brother, is I think it helps with, as you were mentioning about how to strengthen this thing we carry around. Is the cold is a really good ally. It really does strengthen this human core about what we are, and that's why I mentioned it, because you mentioned the tropics, and I understand the tropics, but I think there's something really good for us as a species to get into the cold and understand the power that this planet has given us with cold air.
I'm from Chicago. I'm gonna have a sacred oneness with the hawk wind, and the viciousness of 60 below. I've experienced 60 below zero, and it's like being on Mars. It's beautiful.
Mm.
If you want to understand Mars, understand the south side in the dead of winter at 60, 30 below wind chill, and you get an understanding of what they're going to experience on Mars. They got to be ready for that because it's a lot like Mars. Yeah, I think really I've been getting into the Yukon and all the energy of like the North Country of like Canada, certain areas of that. This is where another dimension is opening as well. Being in the cold weather, being up there and getting the freezing energy and learning those elements. So you're
Hmm.
there and you can connect with certain alien races that come to that place. I think that's a very important area. I'm thinking about getting land in Alaska or somewhere like that. I want a series of bases. I've seen a vision of a series of bases. One is in Alaska, one is in the South, maybe South America. Another one is in Morocco. Just land where people can do meditations in a non-judgmental way, right? Just they can learn my universal energy science, and how to move their life force to change the planet and to become millennial people. Because living 1,000 years is not really a big deal. Once you become breatharian with a light amount of fruit and liquids, your body just takes over. You understand? And it's just
Hmm.
like what kills you really is your food. People are dying from nutrition, what they're eating. Look at Nelson Mandela. He lived to be 93 or 94 years old because he was on a almost like a breatharian diet. He didn't have any food while he was in jail.
Hmm.
So see, he had like 30 years of like nothing to eat. So he lived another 30 years, 34 years based on that austerity, right? He lived a hell
Oh
of a
yeah,
long time.
I'll give you another reflection. I mean, when I lived in Venezuela, when we lived, the two elders of the village was a part. Both partners had been together, and they were, well, nobody technically knew because they don't get birth certificates in that part of the world, but they were at least in their hundreds. I mean, we're talking at least 101, 102, and they were exactly the same. And for the last 20 years, they'd eaten exactly what you just said. Their diet was that. So that's just my little reflection on something I've seen in my experience, which backs up what you just said, brother.
Well, that's what our science is. And in the new hacker school that I'm doing, of course, you're going to learn the code and security and, penetration testing, whatever. But more importantly, you're going to learn to hack. We're going to, work with a little bit of the work I did where the Pentagon came in and studied with us, the brain tech and mind inner technology. And they were fascinated. They wanted to know what we knew about that. You understand? So that's what I'm focusing on too. We don't want just people to get jobs and become drones. We want them to create
Mm-hmm.
industry and companies and new Googles, new Amazon, whatever, you know, and new ideas for the new universe, for the new universe that the world needs. We got to create that and understand technology because hell is one who does not know technology uh, in the age of technology. And transhumanism is just going to be a natural effect. You understand? People
Mm-hmm.
taking on different instruments and learning how to use them and integrate them. It's going to be great, if you can, because that's what you're doing anyway. You got on headphones, aren't you? That's a machine,
Exactly.
right? So what's the big difference? I think you got to, obviously, and I would want to have some AI. Once AI gets integrated, and we already have AI. We have natural AI, which is your brain. It's natural AI. So at least, instead of you want to go out and blowing money, go out and learn to use the equipment that you already have.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the other one as well. And I think this thing that again, I think it needs to be spoken upon is one of the universal tools we got on this planet right now, and it doesn't really rely on technology as much, is music itself. I mean, you were speaking earlier on about you being a bass player and stuff, and what I love about music,
Yeah,
it
I'm
has
a
that.
rapper. I helped start that band Third Eye Blind. You might have heard of them.
It, exactly, that's what I'm saying. And so you would know, and you'd be able to speak upon this more than anybody else I know about the power of just the vibrations of music and what it does for us as a species on this planet.
Music is why the second alien fleet contacted us in Maui, Hawaii, when I was with King Zen, the guy who started Third Eye Blind. We were on the mountain, and I was told to go to the top of Haleakala pretty much after landing in Hawaii to do a ritual, to get my friend ready, to get his energy aligned. So I went there. We had just got a big contract from 90120, the movie. Remember that TV show?
Yep.
Yeah, well, we were in the soundtrack, and one of the guys was in this that did the gold record. I was training to the mountain, and it was amazing to be at the top of the mountain and to get energy from the aliens. They were there. You understand? They were there. They're groups of people who have technology who move around. That's what aliens are. They're a group of people who have technology who move around. And they have interesting take on life because they have a lot of freedom. The government doesn't understand them. And our government does have, they have joint bases too. That's the other thing. This whole thing about going to Mars and going to the moon, and it's just an old joke because they've been going there for years. Anything that they give the American public, they've already done. You better believe it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah, if they're talking about going there and Mr. Elon Musk and everything, you better believe they already know. And they already got that going on. And it's not hard to hide. You understand? They can hide it. They will. But we have to evolve our technology so that we don't need computers, that we are the computer. You understand? And that comes from lots of meditation. You understand? And going in, finding your power. And that can be music. It doesn't have to be rigid. Nothing has to be painful and boring. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna get your power. You're gonna get your power from being at peace with yourself and the universe. And then the aliens will come right up and tap you on the head like they did to me. They came to me, and I think about that all the time. Why did the aliens contact me that day out of all the life and everything was going on? Why at that moment? And then I realized something. At that moment they came, I had created my own system of Reiki and was implementing it. And it was creating a force field around my body. And that attracted them. Positive energy attracts the higher beings. You understand? It's like they want to be a part of it. They wanted to be a part of that moment. And that moment changed my whole life because now I know that my thoughts are medicine and energy, and that I can use them to change my life and get all the money I need. Money is just energy. And I don't think of money. I think of service. I think of service, and I think of like getting a lot of people out of bondage, because that's what we're at
Hmm.
right now. We're at the age of a new slavery, a new slavery. And it was going to be Hillary's slavery, but now it's another one. You understand? Yeah, it's interesting. But you know what? I think everything happened for the best, because everybody knows that there was a good chance of war with Russia if Hillary had got in there. So it's, the universe knows what he has to do. We have to go beyond. Like I said, the main thing now is just to get as light as you can, get your body like to where you don't need much of anything to survive, and then your energy will kick in. Your supercomputer can kick in, right? When you get clear like that, right? And you're not weighed down. You can become like angelic to a certain extent.
Oh,
And get rid of all the what?
no, I was just going to say, and I mean, I just wanted to speak upon what something you mentioned. Then, I mean, I think one of the higher frequencies of us as a human being is, and that expresses itself through music, through art, through the pure forms, and they're always the arts. I mean, and I think it's something that we would probably share. There is something, I don't know, there's something unique about music itself, where it's played on any kind of form, that connects us with the universe more than anything else. You know, man, you've been in a band, you've been a musician and
I
stuff like
studied
that.
with Miles Davis. I studied with Miles Davis.
Mhm.
That was like, and Charles Mingus. I studied with him also. So I demanded that he get me into his club, Mingus. I said, "Get me into your club. I want to see you." I was 16 years old. They risked their liquor license to get me into the club, because I knew he was an avatar, and I had to be with him. You see that? It was on the north side of Chicago, and I sought him out because he was a God man, and I needed to get that energy, and that energy is now talking to you. The energy that was with Miles is now talking to you. I'm here, and I have survived those wars. I saw these people. I understand what we're in now. It's a spiritual awakening that we have to do, and we have to
Mhm.
conquer. It's not about blaming or hating. It's really about becoming avatars. That's what I see. You start to build yourself up, and open up your doors. And then, it's the same thing that Nelson Mandela used to not to die. But obviously, it's always got to go to the next level. We got to go to the next level and take our knowledge around the world, and we can learn from everything. You know,
I agree with you, brother. And I think the thing is, and as you know, I mean, all that happens is that time passes, although that time is an illusion. But what I'm trying to say is, while we're having this conversation, we don't have to go too far in this world to see that people are, getting obsessed by Team Red, Team Blue. We've got people thinking the whole world's flat. We've got people that are obsessed with Marvel movies. We've got people obsessed with X Factor. Man, I agree with you, but that's the reality we live in. As much as we have this reality, that's the constant battle. And that's, like you said, we are warriors in a world of I don't know. I don't know what you want to call it, darkness or whatever. But there's an
yeah, it's a
delude.
matrix of sorts. It is a
Yeah,
matrix of
exactly.
sorts,
Hmm.
and we have to swim through it, and we have to go through it, and we're alive, and we're also like, you've got to time travel. That's the secret, is time travel. You're doing time travel all the time, and it's just like when I
Hmm.
go to the Prism Federation, 72 trillion light years away. This time travel, and your thoughts are real, and they start to manifest. So you have to constantly go into the future to create what you want. It's like the other day, I was like, okay, now I need 100,000 a month, because that's there. The universe wants me to have it. And with that, I can serve more people and build the village I need to have. You understand? We need that. And we knew, and the thing is, if they can go to now they're talking about going to asteroids and mining them. So everything you want is out there somewhere. Think about it. They're going to go to asteroids, just flying around the world, and just start taking them. So it just shows we're in an abundant universe. The fact that they're even talking about going to Mars or anywhere else, or you an asteroid, or, you know, which is all going to come and accelerate, and it's a natural progression. I mean, it won't be the first time we've done space travel as a species. That's hard for people to fathom, but there it is. It won't be. This isn't the first time we've done space travel. I hate to rain on their parades, you know, right? I don't want to make them feel inferior or anything, but none of this is new. And those beings that I met with the great white orb ships, circles, they seem to confirm that this is, you know, they're pretty much checking on me. That's because I still get data back from them, right? After this, you know, 30 years ago, and I'm still getting data back from them, and it's being broken down. And a lot of it has to do with they wanted to help me. You understand? They wanted to help me to do the right thing and to understand the technologies that I would need. The inner technologies of shamanism, thought technology, mental mind, remote visioning, going places. That's the stuff people need to learn, and that's what's going to be in our program. You know, our new boot camp. It's going to be a lot of things dealing with shamanism, really getting outside of your body, your thought process, in addition to learning how to hack code. Just all those together, and you can build a company rapidly. You understand? So it's not just about you going to beg somebody at the code plantation for a job. It's about creating whole technologies. I don't really want anybody to come to this program who's looking for a job. I want only people who want to create technologies, like core systems and architect new technologies. That's what it's all about. Because I got the other technology companies, the owners and the managers that I've dealt with who are friends of mine. I could say, okay, you know, this is Do Software. Go talk to this guy. He's an amazing he has an amazing engineering team, and you can hang around him for 8 weeks. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
Things like that, and we'll help you make your product. You give me, you know, yeah, you're paying $20,000. We understand that, but you are going to come away with your own company. We get our brothers to help you make your own Bitcoin if you add another 25 grand. You understand? It's a process that people are going to like. They can afford to pay anyway because they have the money, and the money is going to help them to stay independent. And that's like not even 25% of what they pay for these colleges. 200,000, 300,000, and you don't even learn to code well. You see my point? And all you have to do, you give us like 15, 20 for different programs. Some are even 9. And we're gonna and if you know, we have programs for people that don't have money too, obviously. Right? They can come work for us and work it off. How about that?
Sounds good to me. That's it.
It is, because you gotta have that protection these days. It's just like here we are in the modern world. We're talking. We're not at a job, like burning out. You see my point? Mm-hmm. And it's like that's the great thing about America is that you can create that thing. In California, because California is like a separate nation from the United States, with the Silicon Valley. This is where dreams are created with hard work and hustle every day, right? So there is no, you need a job, really. It isn't. It's only, can you hack, mind hack? Forget about if you can code or not code. That's not the issue. It's mind hacking. That's what it's all about. because everything here is super expensive. It's a lifestyle of people who, you're creating your life, because then you got people living under the bridge, right? They're living under the bridge, and that's a life that unfortunately was created by them. Of course, there's socioeconomic factors that are there that are very like brutal, right?
Hmm.
That's for sure. It's really, 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 you know, California is a very an enigma kind of like, because it's like it's a beauty and the beast. And the beast is not having money or resources or knowing how to code for sure, right? That's a that's like a going to be like a sin. And I told my son, you better learn all of this stuff because it could be a death sentence for you not to know it, right? That's that's where it's at here. These things are not just toys, and it's not a novelty to be a hacker or be a mind hacker or a life hacker. It's a necessity, because you can either do this or you could just be at some. You could be like out on the end of the street with a PhD. There are PhDs out there under the bridge too. You see?
Hmm.
So it's all about applying the divine knowledge. That's my whole thing, is that teaching people to apply the divine knowledge and life hacking skills to put their code and their company all together and be free and to live in Costa Rica or something, right? That technology allows you to go to Costa Rica and still run your company. You see what I'm saying? That's
Oh,
where I'm
completely. And I think we've spoken upon this before. This is the very essence of a new paradigm, is where we can all choose to be, like I'm saying, choice comes from freedom, and the choice to do what you want to do, whatever you want to do, where you want to live. That should all be intrinsically available to all. And I think it's something else you were speaking upon, and I think the first step upon this is, and I think this is one of the things that again is worth speaking upon and highlighting, is that half the battle is not only trying to elevate yourself to, as a human being, but half the battle is just basically debugging yourself of all the viruses that you've been infected all your life, man. I mean, not only physical viruses, but you've been, everybody in our parts of the world, particularly America and Western Europe, we've all been plunged into state education. We've been plunged with all these illusions. I mean, here we are at this time of year, and people have still got Christmas lights up, and they're all getting into some Santa illusion. And that's one of the hardest battles to do, is
You're
to
right.
debug yourself. Is one of the hardest hacks at all, because you can't
You're
really
right
step.
about that. My son, I got to go pick him up because he's at this school, and they want my wife is like, okay, yeah, it's good for him to stay there, and I'm like, you know what? I'd rather have him be at home playing League of Legends, And I'm teaching him how to learn League of Legends because he's learning. Like I've been teaching him how to code since he's 4.5. He knows some Python. He knows Ruby on Rails a little bit. I mean, he knows the concepts. And that's what I'm teaching him, is like the basic concepts and how to, configure different code and stuff. And the thing is, you put him on League of Legends or a game, and he's going to learn like everything right away. All of these skills that are going to come into play later, and it's amazing because these games are like, they teach you to be super intelligent. And if you're old, they keep your mind sharp. You can be 90 years old doing it, and it keeps your brain active. So he's learning more from playing this game. And I know some of the staff from League of Legends from Ukraine, some of the players, they're friends of mine. So you can learn this game, and it's no struggle, right? He immediately wants to learn. He wants to play. And I just got this brand new $2,000 computer or whatever. And it's like, immediately he's taking it over to learn this game. And I think it's awesome because I'm like, wow, this is my legacy. This is what I want him to do. I want him to learn all these technologies. So it's great that he wants to be on my computer and like just jump into League of Legends. He's passionate about it. He has the heart of a coder and a hacker. And that's the great thing, that you think you can force someone to do something, but it shows that nature, just the League of Legends, and this thing has been created by some being in this universe that we live. will show him the hacker skills he needs to go to the next level.
E-
Blessings.
exactly, and I think that's what I was trying to sort of like speak upon. I think this is when you know we're not truly free as to express the potential inside of us is when we haven't got the choice. I mean, I don't know what it's like in California, but I'd imagine if you took your son out of school now, you'd have a hell of a lot of paperwork and people knocking on your doors, and that's just more
Well,
proof we
it's
don't live
police
in
state.
freedom, isn't it?
It's police state because they want your child to get all these inoculations. And I know for a fact that if I wasn't a 10th degree Qigong scientist and master, my son would be sick. But since I'm 10th Dan and I've done all the training and went to the traditional college of Chinese medicine, studied in China, and gotten a lot of the technologies of Qigong, I understand how to defeat this thing. But most people don't have that knowledge. So they have to, their kids go to these schools and they indoctrinate you. And then if you're a black kid or if you're African American or brown, they pretty much they take the manhood out of you. They want you to be like a drone. So the whole thing is like the matrix training. And so my son had a lot of problems and I understood. And then I realized they were just trying to because he's into the vibe. So I understand what they do. It's just like a system. It's better to educate your child at home. It really is. Do you do
Yeah,
homeschooling?
completely. Well, my son's not through the education system, and B, and I've spoken to you before, and I don't mind speaking about this in public. When my son was, 10, 11, we took him out of. That's why we lived in Venezuela, man. I made the decision as parents and thought, well, hey, 2 years living on the beach and experiencing life as it is a really good way. But as I speak, most people don't have that choice. They don't.
How
They're
old is your son now? How old is your son now?
He's 25.
Wow, that's awesome.
Exactly, but the point I'm trying to make is, this is one of the hardest battles that everybody has to go because most people are going to be dragged through this, and it's not. I mean, I use education as one, but we're all dragged through this mire. We're all living in that reality, and I think one of the hardest things that people have got to wake up is that as much as if you ever want to step forward, you've got to learn to basically reform yourself and cut all the crap away and question everything in your life. And that's very difficult because most people, and that's why I love, what we speak upon very often is being honest. And there's very few people want to sit there and actually look at themselves and go, oh, maybe what I've got is a belief, and they don't want to question those beliefs. They rather just stay in that comfortable zone, walk away, and that to me is how the matrix or the paradigm we live in is formed because people do. They just settle at a certain level, and as you said before, they need to be questioning everything. And when you think you're questioning something else, question it again. Like you spoke upon when you first met, aliens, as you would put it, the first thing you were doing asking them questions. That to me is a key tool we have as a human being. We have our minds are giving us the ability to question, but not many people want to do that because to be honest, dude, it hurts. It's a painful process to get rid of all those names and viruses that are going in your mind. It's a very difficult thing, man. It's not an easy. This is one of the things, and humans don't want to face that. That's why I think it's imperative to get across to human beings that you have the power, and that's why I think it's good to highlight these conversations because people are in. They need to understand that humans can come through it, and it doesn't matter who you are, where you are on this planet. We've all got the power to walk through those fear, like you have, like you said, the killing fields of Chicago. I could talk about many stories we've all been through, but the key element is that you are speaking upon is you've made it, and that is so inspirational.
Well, you know what? I don't know what making it really means, but I'm here and I'm breathing, and I want to help the people in Chicago and the brothers on the south side and the north side, and all over the world. I work with people, so it's just all about love and being able to meditate, man, and be inside the divine power and understand you're God inside, and like, you can make it if you just change.
Yeah, dude. But even on, I mean, it's even on a human, one-to-one, level, man. I mean, you said, you've made it because you're here talking to me, man. I mean, this year alone, I've had a number of friends this year who aren't here anymore. They, for whatever reason, suicide, whatever, they're not here anymore, man. We're here talking, dude. That isn't. That's what I'm trying to
No, it's
say.
amazing.
That
Well,
is
it's
amazing,
amazing
dude.
because you know what? The thing is, we're here and we're talking, and these words are going to go out to millions of alien races. They vibrate our sound, and the sound waves of our conversation is going to go light years away as time passes, which is really interesting that the things that we say are being immortalized right now. And so it's important that we say the things that are important, which is that we're all here to heal this universe. Like the
Indeed.
aliens have taught me that we're all here, and their race and our race is linked through time. And if we have a nuclear bomb, or even testing nuclear weapons affects their dimensions, like it makes them to be destroyed. Like every time they test a nuclear bomb, it's like that's an alien race planet that can be either damaged severely or destroyed. Like whole galaxies can be ripped apart by those bombs that
Hmm.
we detonate in this dimension. Like it can rip apart galaxies, planets, everything, because it's having an effect. So that's why they're here. They're monitoring us to make sure that we can handle our business and start, don't, for one thing, there's been many incidences of these races starting and stopping our nuclear missiles here and in Russia. So they had the capability to start and stop our nuclear systems, which is a good thing, right?
Hmm.
When you think about it, they can, in other words, they could stop us from killing ourselves. Can't argue with that, right? Theoretically. Yeah, I mean, just, the fact that there are all these bombs and like, so the point is, a lot of these races, they hover out in space around the space station. Like, if you ever go online, there's a lot of YouTube videos of different alien groups who are hovering in subspace around the space station, just coming in and out of Earth's atmosphere, taking off, landing. You know, they've got it out there. The data is out there, right? They have the footage from NASA, from the space station. They've got the footage of the different uh, groups coming and going, their ships, different shapes, sizes, etc. Right? So it's common knowledge now. It's interesting how they can keep the American public so in the dark, though, about this type of activity. That's fascinating, right? They don't understand that we're in an omniverse now, and that these groups are here to and in many cases help us. But if they were here to annihilate us, we wouldn't be here. Think about that. With all these advanced technologies, if they were here to annihilate us, how would we survive if they just, whiff of a finger, right?
Exactly,
So,
dude. And, again, I'd always bring this back down to, let's just take this as a perfect human example of what we're talking about. You know, when just a few blip of time, just a few centuries ago, when people walked into other parts of the world and they saw culture, people from my part of the world walked into the South American jungles and they saw people and cultures they didn't understand. They had no other desire than to get gold. So they chop off, the
yeah.
natives' arms to go and get gold. All this horrific history we know
Yeah,
about.
we would give them good
But
herbal
what?
smoke and everything. Look, we
But
give
what?
them
But
good herbal smoke and they would get crazy.
exactly. But the great thing is, the example I'm saying is now that when if we were to go as people here and go over to another culture like I have been, I would never desire to do that. And I think that's exactly the same. That the higher up the enlightenment chain you become, it's obviously you're going to become more and more peaceful. You're going to that's the kind of real. That's what, as you said, that's what's fascinating about the world we live in. Is that, we don't understand that all the divisions and all this is just being pumped to us. It's just our true selves are in are immense supercomputers with the power to do anything we like, and yet we're all carrying in the corner under delusions of fear that are pumped out by the people who. It's basically like the parasite on, like to use a nature term, it's like the tick on the dog telling the dog what to do, and we're the dog, and we've become deluded in that. But the thing is, if we wake up to it and see that it's just a tick, flick it away, we can become anything we like. And that's, as you said, that's what's fascinating, because we have all got it inside ourselves. Nobody puts a gun at anybody's head, dude, to go and live in this matrix. Nobody's putting a gun at anybody's head to go and live and watch the X Factor or go and watch college football. But they all do it.
Here, to stay in America, you can leave America. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. You can leave America. Most Americans have the freedom to leave the United States and go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I like Iceland. I think that's a good country to be in.
Yep.
What do you think?
Iceland's a very good choice, my friend. And if you're going to think really ahead, get yourself to Greenland. that's the place really to go, man. That's as far as I said before. I think you're very.
Why do you say Greenland?
Because Greenland's. Put it this way: Greenland's the largest island on the planet. There's only 56,000 people living there. It's obviously got natural resources. It's a spectacular part of the world, as in just energy-wise. I mean, that's another conversation. And equally, it's one of the places, as far as we're aware, that has been covered by an ice sheet for the longest amount of time. And I think that what's under that ice is absolutely key to what lies ahead for human beings, because I think it's one of the few places, because the Antarctic's always going to be what it is, but the Greenland is somewhere that, you know, that's why I say Greenland. And I think as well, I said before, it's the largest island and not many people are there, and that to me has an intrinsic power about it. And I think there's immense attraction to that part of the world. That's why I mentioned Greenland. But Iceland's a good one as well, my friend. I mean, Iceland's it's a very powerful part of the world, is Iceland. So yeah, I think you're right, and I think the wisdom that you spoke upon is to get it where you have many different bases. But it goes back to what I just said then, man, and it's just bringing this back down to an everyday level. Like you said, every American could get right now, you know, and go to Morocco, they could go to Australia, they could go to Malaysia, they could go to Argentina, they could go to Peru, they could do all this, but they don't do it, dude. That's the thing. But they don't.
Australia is a very good place because they really have an influence for like the African American hip hop reggae sound that I have. They like this type of music, and then with the shamanism involved, they're into this kind of stuff. So you got to find markets. I think the problem is the reason why people have poverty is because they're caught in one place, and you get caught in one place. And that's one thing. When I was on the South Side, it was a great place, but when I learned how to go around to the universe and to fly from one spot to the other, I was in a better position than if I had to stay in that one spot. It was like the Tao. You have to keep moving. And I learned very early on Qigong and Tai Chi, and that I think that helped me with the violence that people were having, because I realized it's all about yin and yang, and to not just talk about it, but in those type of situations, you really have to understand the practice, because people are so violent and so, you know, urban areas tend to be claustrophobic. So you have to understand your inner space. And that's what the world is faced with. It's a time where we have to understand our inner spaces and think of all the dimensions that are inside of you. Just think if you could meditate for like 3 to 5 hours straight, and you meditate for 5 hours straight and you don't move for 5 hours straight, and your energy is attuned for those 5 hours, and you're inside and you're not external, and you're gathering energy for those 5 hours, then your heart rate is lower. You're not stressing, and you're getting in tune with the universe for 5 hours, right?
Mhm.
Think about it. So you're not stressed out. You're not in the rat race, and that's the core of what I'm doing now. Learning the program is great, but you also have to do inner programming so that you can program your ideas and your emotions. Correct?
Exactly, and again, I point this back to, and this is the power that's held in these kind of conversations, because I relate to what you just said just a few minutes ago, and you said, oh, about you've made it through. That dude is so powerful, because people need to hear that, because as you know, when you're stuck in, and you can speak upon it, you've been on the killing fields of Chicago, as you put it in your own words, that when you're in that vibration, that zone, that place, that wherever you want, you're focused upon in Chicago, you don't think of that. When you're having to do a million things in your day just to survive, the last thing you're thinking about is, oh, I need 5 hour meditation, because they just don't think ahead. That's why it's the power of someone like you standing up and saying, hey, I've got out of this, I made it through, and now I'm sat down in California, and look at me, and look at my role I'm playing. That is the power. The real power of what you're saying is that is saying to people, you can come through this. You don't have to be stuck in your frequency, your place that you are. You've got the power inside yourself to step up and do that. But as you say, as I would say, the only way you're going to do that is to understand what's inside yourself, and that is the hard part, because it's easy to go out and reform the world. That's an easy thing, but it's the hardest thing is to look inside yourself and change those inner things, and that's is the hardest thing, but the most crucial and lesson that everybody does. Once you start down that path, you gain power, and from the gaining the power, you shine more light, and the more light you shine, the more it's the power you get, and it's just a continual cycle. But that's what's powerful about what you're speaking upon, because on a human level, you can speak upon. You've walked out of the inner city of Chicago to the life you are now, and that is, if just one person in Chicago hears that and thinks, oh, okay, that's a path I'm going to follow, that's the power, and that's why it's needed, and these conversations are needed. And that's essential message that needs to get across to humanity, that they don't need to rely on anybody else. As you would quite rightly say, you can rely on yourself, because it really is. We have got this supercomputer inside this skull of ours, and it's, if we can just tap into that, and that is the key essential message, I think.
Well, I met this one guy in the Silicon Valley, and he's like very famous and in technology. And one thing that was interesting about him is that he I didn't know him at first, and then he later became even a family member to me, right? But the point is, he had one thing that he taught me, and that is, it's what you're using. Just in terms of, like, some people are physically gifted and can, play basketball in the NBA, and then 2 years later are broke. And then one other guy, is in a wheelchair, and then he goes to college and gets his degree and gets an MBA or something, and starts working with big companies, making $1 million a year. You see my point? Mm-hmm. So he couldn't do it physically, but he had the internal power to do it. And that's just what Kung Fu was always all about with me. In Chicago, and I was like, or in the Orient when I was in China, I'm learning only because I want to learn my own internal power and to increase and heal it. I'm not out there competing. I'm trying to raise my consciousness. That's it.
Indeed. Indeed. Well, exactly. And this conversation is, and the words you've spoken upon are steps, and I hope everybody would just, for myself, alone, we'll take some of these and like you said, just build up our power, build up our consciousness, because that's the only way we're ever going to, move forward as a species and as a human being alone, is to do that. Now, time is, I'm going to, time is rushing ahead of us, and I know you've got things to do. You've got to pick up your son and stuff like that. So it's been, absolute, as always, my brother. It's always an insightful conversation when I talk to you, and I'm always left with many questions. And like you said, it's a very powerful conversation. But before we do wrap this up, and I just wanted to basically just, I want you to tell a parting message for anybody that's listening in the greatest universe that we live in. Just what's your parting message to everybody, and then we'll finish this off.
Time travel is a fun thing. You can go anywhere at any time. You just have to be able to take a moment and realize that you can travel to any place in the universe from just your faith and your belief and your heart and your intention.
Perfect.
Amen.
Well, amen, brother. Well, from me over here in Scotland and all over in California, I want to say life is people.
Yeah.